Welcome to B2B with Randy and Craig, where we speak to local entrepreneurs and learn about their journey. Welcome to B2B with Randy and Craig, where we discuss the rise, the fall,
and the kick in the...
No, we don't discuss that.
We don't do that.
It's a family show. Hey, I'm Randy.
I'm Craig from That's a Wrap Productions.
And we have with us a special guest today. We have Dave Agosteribi from Epic Payment Solutions. Welcome, Dave.
Welcome.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, love it. We got a quick question for you to start things off.
Why credit card processing?
So that's an easy one. When I got out of the military, I bought a couple of cell phone stores, and I was getting killed on credit card processing. So I figured out a way to become a credit card processor with myself as my only customer, lowered my credit card rates, and earned residuals on all the transactions. Light bulb went off. And then you know how when you're in a profession, you go to trade shows and you meet other people in your profession? Other cell phone stores found out I was doing that. And for the first 2 years, all I did was cell phone stores because I was very good at it. Then
did you still own your cell phone stores?
I did. I did. And then what happened was that became a completely separate revenue stream. The profit exceeded my cell phone store profits. We spun the business off, and now it's Epic Payment Solutions.
Well, that is an entrepreneurial
What were
story.
you doing prior to?
He was in the military, he said.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
He doesn't pay attention.
Killing people, shooting them.
So you graduated from high school or college and went into the military?
The day after I graduated, I went directly into the military. I was in the ROTC in high school. I graduated, and next morning I was at Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn, swearing into the military.
First of all, thank you so much for your service. That's unbelievable.
Better man than I am.
So you get out, and Craig wasn't paying attention. Yes, Craig wasn't paying attention. Yes, he wasn't paying attention. So I apologize for that. So you come out, you get. First of all, it takes a lot to even think to open the stores.
Right.
That in itself takes a lot of courage, right? You come out of school, you come out of the military, trying to find your way. You decide why. First of all, why decide on cell phones?
So I had no business background. And just like I got into the credit card business out of necessity, I got into the cell phone business out of necessity, right? Necessity is the mother of all inventions.
You needed a phone.
Right? Actually, I wanted something that didn't exist. There weren't plans that would do what I wanted to do. So there's a thing called a mobile virtual network operator. It's basically prepaid companies or MVNOs.
Right.
They rent space from the big carriers, rebundle the minutes, and sell them.
Oh, so that's how that works when we see those commercials?
So that's what I did.
Got it.
Became quite good at it. At the peak, at the heyday of my cell phone career, I had 13 stores.
Wow.
We have 3 now because we don't really focus on that.
Right.
So we still have 3 stores. And I went the prepaid route. I became a track phone dealer.
Got it. So that's a great story. So you have somebody who doesn't have business background, but you got chutzpah in your head. You got smarts. And you do.
I don't even think that it's smart. You know what I think it is really? And I tell everybody this. I apply every lesson I learned in the military to every business decision that I make, right?
Yes.
Right? There's a guy named Robert Fulghum who wrote a book years ago, Everything I Need to Learn, I Learned in Kindergarten.
Right.
Everything I need to learn, I learned in the military.
You know who else told us the exact same thing? Jay Rhodes from King Tops. He was a Marine. He's a Marine, a vet, and same thing. The lessons and what he learned in the military has helped him propel his business.
Absolutely, 100%. I apply those lessons, those values, those morals to everything that I do, and it's just panned out.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So with that happening, it's nice to know if someone's listening, hey, you don't necessarily have to graduate from the greatest college. There's nothing to do with that. It's your fire in your belly and your ability to learn and adapt to the environment that's out to you. And that's what you did. You looked at it and said, I see a problem, I have the solution. And that's the most important thing when you're creating a brand, a company. Absolutely. What problem are you solving?
You know, the greatest, the most innovative entrepreneurs around today, the multi-millionaires and billionaires, the majority of them that are really contributing something that humanity needs, have no formal education.
That's true. That is true.
What they do have is a will to better their industry, a will to provide a service to humanity.
What problem are they solving?
Absolutely.
Right. By the way, we cannot let this go on without commenting on this outfit, man. You look unbelievable.
I don't know where to look first, though. It's the
unfortunately,
shirts,
this is the radio. For those who watch the podcast and see how this man dresses. Beautiful.
I wanted to dress so shiny that you could even see it on the radio.
I think you can. When you first walked in, I thought we had a pimp coming in at first. I got to be honest with you. I thought this show was going in a different direction. But hey, look, you look terrific.
Is there money in it? If there's money,
there's money in it. Of course there is. And that's an entrepreneur
right?
in New Jersey. We'll talk about it. We don't care. We'll
You
talk
take
about
credit
it.
cards.
So you do more than just obviously Long Island though, yeah? Or
We have offices in 4 states. We do business right now in 17 states, and we just got a royal warrant. We're on the list in England. We have a company in England that's using us as well. So
That's
I'm
awesome.
actually, my website in England, I'm actually allowed to use by appointment of His Royal Highness.
Oh, really? So how do you convert, I'm sorry, how do you convert the pounds to, how does that work? Or you're operating over there?
So the entity we use in England is a completely separate entity set up for that. There is no conversion.
Got it.
However, we do have Canadian companies that use us that we do convert. I mean, the conversion part is easy.
Got it. Yeah, I was just curious. So it's not running through the same system, but it's an easy convert.
Yeah.
Got it. And what problem are you solving in credit card processing?
Here's where I think I'm different than all my competitors. First of all, my competitors hate me because I don't do business the way they do business.
Right.
they don't
Like
dress
that.
like you either.
So
It's like your competitors hate you.
Yes.
They don't dress like you either. There you go.
So February of last year, February of 2024, all the laws in New York State changed in regards to taking credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
There are still processors that are not compliant with those laws, have their merchants processing, and there are merchants that are getting fined. There was just recently a restaurant in the town of Southampton where I live that was fined $175,000 for being out of compliance.
And what's compliance mean?
That will kill a small business.
Kill it. You're done.
So the flavor of the week is cash discount, right? Passing the fee through to the customer on credit cards. There are 9 aspects to how that has to be done in the state of New York. If all 9 of those are not followed, it's not compliant. There is a fee chart of what you could be charged by New York State for not doing
For not following.
what you can get fined.
Right.
And the municipalities have the right to go ahead and fine you. We pride ourselves on the fact, first of all, we helped Albany write the law, but we pride ourselves on the fact that we are 100% compliant in all 50 states because the laws are different in all 50 states.
And if you if you as a customer fall short, you can't go back to your credit card processor. That's on you.
It's not the processor that gets fined. When an accountant does your taxes and it's not done right, you're held responsible,
held
not
responsible.
the accountant.
Right.
If I set you up and you're not compliant and you get a fine either by the credit card company themselves or New York State, you can't come to me. It wasn't me. So my moral obligation to you as your processor is to keep you compliant. And it really pisses me off in my industry that my competitors don't care about that. And the reason they don't care, by the way, is it's expensive for the processor to provide you with a compliant solution. So it's cheaper for them not to, hope that you don't understand the law, that the day will never come that you're fined, and that you'll continue.
So how does somebody, I think I know the answer. How does somebody know if they're in compliance? Do they call you and say, hey, look at what I'm doing today, for example? Would you give a free look?
So I know that you guys know me. I know that a lot of people listening do not.
Right.
So I'm going to clarify this for the ones that don't know me.
Right.
It's not all about getting the business for us. So someone who's not using us, who wants me to evaluate and make sure that they're compliant so they can go back to their processor and tell them what needs to be done, I have no problem with getting that phone call and doing that. We don't charge for that. We don't whatever. I hate my industry. My mission is to turn my industry upside down.
Love it.
And get it correct.
So
There's
how
no
does
oversight in my
how does
industry.
somebody get a hold of you? So if I want you to look at my processing, how do I get you?
They can dial 631-833-9679, and they will get a live human being when they call.
Which is a miracle. And what's your website?
It is epicpaymentsolutions.net, not
Love it.
.com. Don't do
.net.
.com. We were actually, just so you know, another company bought .com to route my customers to them.
SOPs.
Wow. So you didn't go to school for this per se. You kind of came out. What's one thing that you had to learn that was the most valuable information that you had to kind of just do?
So we pride ourselves, yes, the compliance is one thing, but we pride ourselves on the fact that you're not going to save more with going with anyone else. I am the guy that's going to save you the most amount of money.
How could you say that so confidently?
I can tell you that because to answer Craig's question, we had to do a whole look inward on how to slimline what we're doing, right? So the model most of my competitors follow is they have a bank that they pay to use, they have a platform that they rent, they have a gateway that they rent, They have an agreement with an equipment company that they have to pay.
Right.
They have to do all that. We own from soup to nuts.
So that cuts it way down.
Not only does it make it efficient, I can approve people. So we had someone that came to my BNI group, which you guys know what that is.
Mm-hmm. Craig was thrown out of BNI.
So we have a guy. I heard he couldn't spell BNI.
He couldn't spell BNI.
Yeah.
I kept calling it Ben.
He was trying to sound. He was trying to sound it out, but no.
You know what? You got to leave.
So there's a thing called high risk merchants. High risk merchants. They're at risk of a lot of chargebacks. They pay an exuberant rate to process. Their money gets held for 30 days rather than getting it the next day, right? They have to guarantee their account. Okay, so coin stores that sell rare coins are in the high risk. There was a guy that showed up last week at our BNI group because he had to come. He's a customer of mine. He insisted he had to give me a testimonial because no one could do from what I did. Not only did I approve him, we're not holding any money. He's on next day funding, and he was approved in 3 hours after applying.
He changed his life.
And the reason for that is I'm not beholden to a bank. Yeah. My underwriters don't work for a bank. They work for me. I set my rules and regulations. So I can approve whatever I want. I like your face. We shake hands. I trust you. I don't care if you're high risk.
Yeah, because and you got a guy like that. Cash flow is everything. If they're holding his money, this guy's being choked.
He told me he'd be out of business if he used them. Yeah. First sale, he'd be done.
Yeah, I could imagine. Yes. You know, probably a big sale, and you're sitting there, you have no money.
His sales right now are $6,000 to $10,000 per transaction. So imagine them holding that.
So my question is, how does that guy find you?
He found me because a friend of his recommended him to me. So we don't do cold calling.
You don't need to.
I've always thought that diminished the brand, right? You know, business owners, you know, their time is the most valuable commodity, more so than money. So when you're occupying their time, can I speak to the business owner? I do credit card. They get those calls all day long.
Sure.
Everything we've done's been through word of mouth, referrals. You know, I process for you, and your brother-in-law opens a restaurant. So
I say you got to use this guy,
and we built a brand out of that.
That's awesome.
Well, if you're just tuning in to B2B with Randy and Craig on WBAB 102.3. or Apple, Spotify, or iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcast, we are sitting down with Dave Agster-Ribby from Epic Payment Solutions.
Wow. He loved, by the way, you don't understand. That's his, he loves it. But I have a question.
We should just play that over and over again.
Believe me, he would. So my question is, a very important question. Dispensaries are popping up all over the place.
Yep.
One of the things that I've heard speaking to the owners and so forth, that they're high risk and they can't get credit card processing. They're having a problem getting bank accounts. That's another. Would you process dispensaries?
So the answer to that is twofold. It's yes and no. It's yes that I would process dispensaries because I don't need a bank. It's my own money.
Right.
But we need to feed that money somewhere once we collect it, which means they need a bank account for us to feed their money into. So I can't help them with that part.
But if they have the bank account,
they have a bank account, I can take credit cards all day long.
We're going to talk about that later. We got some people that are really looking. Go ahead.
What is the most common misconception about your industry?
Ooh, the most common misconception.
They're all well dressed.
That's right.
Stressed
and that's a big misconception. I'm president of the Blind Men Dressing in the Dark Association. So the big misconception is when you get your statement at the end of the month is that you don't need to review it and that it's legit, that everything you're being charged is a justifiable charge. Merchants are always amazed when I go over it with them and I tell them this is completely made up. There are only 3 charges that are legitimate. The rest of the stuff is at the discretion.
You mean on the bill that the company, the processor, is charging the retail?
At the end of the month, you get a statement.
Right. You're talking about not the consumer.
Not the consumer. Right, okay. The merchant gets a statement showing what he processed, what went into his account, right? Yep. And how much he was charged for it. And he just says, okay, that's great. I'll give
he doesn't pay attention.
He doesn't pay attention to, PCI non-compliance and a statement fee and a batch header and $4 for a stamp to mail your statement to you.
Right. A bunch of baloney.
And all those things. And we don't have those fees.
No hidden fees.
No hidden fees.
No hidden fees.
No hidden fees. By the way, we also don't have a contract. You're free to leave whenever you want. If you have equipment, if you're a card present merchant that swipes, your equipment's free. We don't rent it, lease it, or sell it. It's yours for you to use on a gentleman's handshake as long as you're using us.
That's tremendous. That's tremendous. You're a big personality. I know that. And you do things and make a statement and incredible rainmaker. But what book would you recommend to our listeners? You know, we love learning about books that got you to where you are.
So I'm going to recommend 2 books. One that is a book people have heard of, and one that is a book people haven't.
Okay.
So the 48 Laws of Power.
I'm reading that right now.
Wow.
So the 48 Laws of Power,
Really?
I can recite cover to cover. I own 7 versions of it. I keep them in various parts so I can always refer back to it. Greatest book ever written in both business and personal life.
So I'm listening to that right now, and I'm going to agree. It is. I have every chapter. I've gone back right afterward and listened to it twice. Absolutely phenomenal.
Okay.
So, and here's the weird part. Now I'm going to give a free plug to someone that we all know. So a gentleman named Rob Esposito wrote a book.
I knew it.
Yep.
I told Rob this from the very beginning. I'm not in the moving business. I bought numerous copies. And the reason I did, and it's in my collection with my business books. What most people don't read between the line on Nobody Move Until You Read This. It's not a book about moving. Even though he says it is, and whatever, it's not. There are business lessons in there. Play nice with others, how to do sales, how to whatever. And I now have my sales associates, and I'm not in the real estate business, reading that book.
Wow.
So I think that is a great book.
And he was a guest on our show.
Yes. Rob, that'll be $20, please.
And by the way, Rob was also brought up in an earlier interview.
Yes.
So all of a sudden it's becoming B2B with Randy and Craig
with
an
Rob
asterisk
Esposito.
and Rob Esposito. That rat. I'll get him. No, but I agree with you. That that book is much more than moving.
It is.
It is. It's.
I was lucky enough to get a sneak peek of an advanced copy
Right.
that he graciously allowed me to look at, and my first response to him was, "This is not a book about moving. No. I could put this with Think and Grow Rich and the 48 Laws of Power and all that. You need to read between the lines." And by the way,
no wonder why when he hung up the phone with you, he was walking 2 inches off the ground. Yeah. When I was in his office. There you go. Now it makes sense.
But any book that you read that's about those type of topics. Mm-hmm. If you're really reading between the lines and taking, rereading stuff, and like I take notes in the margins and stuff, refer back to the books. There's lots of books that entrepreneurs should have. You should have a whole library of stuff that you can read. A mastermind, a knowledge base that you can
do you want to hear something? And I said this to Craig. I don't know. I'm going to make it up. This is our 30th show. I don't know how many we've
40.
done. 40. Okay, 40. I've gotten some of my greatest lessons from people sitting on that couch that have said things to me that I can't get out of my head. One of the things, and Adam was on here and told us he's an EOS implementer, and he told us about just a quick change of verbiage. You come in the morning, I got to go see this customer, I got to go see that customer, and then I got to go to the warehouse. I'm lucky enough to go see this customer. I get to go see this customer. I get to go. Different mind.
It's
same
funny.
Thing, different mindset.
You know what's
100%.
funny? You say a change of verbiage. We train our salespeople to ask for the no, not for the yes. And here's what I mean by that. It seems counterintuitive. Mm-hmm. But if I want to book an appointment with you, I shouldn't ask you if Thursday works. I should say, is Thursday not good?
I agree.
Okay, so we flip that flip that over a lot. There's a lot of psychology in sales, and how do you get that? You read books.
You read books.
Many men a lot smarter than me figured this all out. I'd be stupid. I wouldn't open a McDonald's and make my own hamburgers.
Right. Brilliant. That's exactly right. The formula's there for you.
Yes,
and we know it works.
Yeah.
So follow it. Make the Big Mac the way it's supposed to be made.
So Randy loves to say, although his wife doesn't like it when he says it, is that judge me not by my mistakes, but how I fix them.
That's true.
Correct.
It's true.
Correct.
So what's one mistake that you had to make
besides your outfit?
Besides the outfit, what's one?
You think my outfit was a mistake?
No, I love that.
Look,
I got to give you a little dip.
I was going to go with fuchsia.
I wear a belt, so I'm not what to
Believe
say.
me, this is not.
Yeah, I toned it down to be on the show. Come
He's
on.
like stupid in stereo right now between us. So like, what's one mistake that had to happen in order for you to make it to where you're at right now?
Wow. It's not even one mistake. I make mistakes all day long on stuff. I'll give you an example right now. I can't reveal the company because they haven't launched yet, but they're going to be huge, and they occupy the ticket space. They're going to put Ticketmaster out of business, quite frankly. We are their processor as of yesterday, and we need to get them up and running because they have a concert coming up on Monday. We need to be able to take the money.
And you're here.
And I'm here, but my entire crew is working on it. We have a platform called Vendara business platform. It is a card not present platform, and it does invoicing and recurring billing and a customer vault and payment pages and QR codes and the whole 9 yards. And we can provide them the solution they want. And our developers right now, this company's headquartered in Spain. There's a time difference.
Right.
We're going to have them up and running by Monday and modify our stuff to work with their website.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So what's your ideal customer? For people listening, what is the ideal customer? And don't say people who take credit cards.
You know what? I wouldn't say that, and I'm also not going to say high volume merchants that are going to get me rich. I have more small merchants than I do big merchants. I have some very big merchants that I'm very proud of. I have a couple of national restaurant chains and some very big merchants that I'm very proud of. But the small guy is my best customer. The mom and pop store who sees potential, who maybe wants to open another location, or takes pride in what he does, because I take a lot of pride in what I do.
You certainly do.
And I don't consider it one and done. They're not my customers; they're associates. I check on. I wish them a happy birthday. I ask them how their wives are doing. I periodically call them and say, "I've been monitoring your account. If you would have done this differently, it would have cost you less."
Yeah.
It's asking for the zip code. Next time, put it in. You'll pay half a point less, whatever.
So you're very hands-on.
Even though that costs me money, because I believe it's a relationship.
I love it.
And there's more than enough room for everybody to grow together.
We work with Dave, not David. We work with a lot of small companies. You and I have spoken to big guys and guys that are just starting out of their house. And it's good to know somebody, as long as they have a bank account, we can refer you, because there's small people that didn't know where to go. They're like, maybe I'm processing to it. So what? I got a guy who wants to see you succeed.
And by the way, even if they don't have a desire to take credit cards, I don't know if you noticed that, we have two aspects to our business. We do credit card processing. We also do ATM machines. So any way that facilitates getting payment from the customer to the merchant, we do.
So you'll put an ATM machine in someone's store?
We do cash-only businesses. I have a couple of bars and stuff that use me that are cash only. We do ATM machines. I do that a lot differently than my competitors as well.
Well, that's an interesting conversation. That's a service I didn't even know you offered. So that's something we should definitely talk about, because there's plenty of people out there that don't even know where to get an ATM to put it in their store because they're cash only, whatever it may be.
And dispensaries are one of our big businesses that we put ATMs in.
That's what I figured, for sure. So where do you see the future of credit card processing as we get more and more away from money? I mean, some people walk around, they don't even have money in their pocket.
So first of all, what I'm going to say is, whether customers like this or not, the entire industry is moving to the model where the customer pays the credit card fee and the merchant does not.
Right.
And the reason for that is, for many years, the merchant has been funding the rewards associated with the customer's credit card. Okay? That's what those high exuberant rates are. My Delta Sky Miles, my Hilton Suites are coming from the merchant paying ridiculous, right? So shouldn't the customer pay that? I have merchants that have customers.
Keep quiet. I'm not answering that. That's rhetorical. Don't say anything.
Randy doesn't want to incriminate himself.
Don't say a word, Craig. Don't say a word. Just shaking, waving your head.
I have merchants that have customers that stand in front of them and say, I'm going to use this card because I get more points for it.
Right.
What you're basically telling the merchant is, I'm going to use this card because it's going to cost you more to process my card. So the entire industry is shifting. However, I'm a very big believer in consumer protection and doing things the right way. So a merchant can't just blatantly say, all right, I'm just going to charge extra for cards. Let me mark that up, right? So New York State came up with laws. All the states came up with laws. Too bad there isn't a universal one. None of them agree. But of course, what do you expect?
That makes sense.
The laws are consumer protection laws. They're designed so the customer doesn't get ripped off, that there's a cap, that there's a way in which it has to be done, right? So that's the way the industry is going. I've testified in front of the New York State Assembly several times. I also testified in front of the California Assembly as well. The law in California now mimics the law in New York State. Okay.
As long as California doesn't initiate the law, it's good. If they initiate, it's going to be a mess.
Correct.
They're good followers.
They pretty much took our law, erased New York, put California everywhere.
Smartest thing they could have done.
Smartest thing they could have done. So they're surcharging in this cash discounting, right? For years, New York State was a surcharge state.
Right.
Now it's a cash discount state. In a nutshell, what that means, and it's all semantics, the end result's the same. Customer pays 4% more for using a credit card, or 3.5% or 3%, or whatever the rate is. If you're starting at $10 and you're surcharging somebody, then they're going $10.40 if they're using a credit card.
Got it.
If you're doing a cash discount, you're charging them $10.40 and giving it to them for $10 if they use cash.
Got it. That's a true discount.
That's a true cash discount. And that's how New York State says it now has to be done.
Got it. So one more time, just tell us how a retailer or a store, someone can find you.
They can either call me at 631-833-9679, or they can go to epicpaymentsolutions.net.
Two things I want to say before we wrap up. First of all, thank you again for your military service. Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
And I'm going to ask, if someone's out there and they're thinking about military, I know you. Could they reach out to you and ask questions and say...
That number I gave is my cell phone number. You know, I'm deeply involved in veterans causes.
I know you are.
I will never turn a veteran away. I will never turn anyone away who's interested in becoming one of my brothers. I have absolutely no problem with that at all.
And by the way, David's also big into raising, whether it be coats, food. Anytime something goes on, he's all over that stuff. He gives back to the community, gives back to Long Island, which is awesome. We're running out of time. They're going to yell at me. So I'm going to hand this to Craig.
So, from B2B with Randy and Craig, that's a wrap.
He loves doing that. Excellent. Great stuff. Good job, man. Thank you for tuning in to B2B with Randy and Craig. Looking forward to hanging with you next week.